Swords and Scabbards. It is the custom of grateful states and nations to present swords as tokens of highest honor to the victorious leaders of their armies and navies. The sword presented to Admiral Schley by the people of Philadelphia at the close of America's war with Spain cost over $3,500, the greater part of which was spent on the jewels and decorations on the scabbard. A little more than a half a century ago, when General Winfield Scott, for whom Admiral Schley was named, received a beautiful sword from the state of Louisiana, he was asked how it pleased him. "It is a very fine sword indeed," he said, "but there is one thing about it I would have preferred different. The inscription should be on the blade, not on the scabbard. The scabbard may be taken from us, the sword never." The world spends too much time, money, and energy on the scabbard of life, too little on the sword. The scabbard represents outside show, vanity, and display. The sword, intrinsic worth. The scabbard is ever the semblance, the sword, the reality. The scabbard is the temporal, the sword is the eternal. The scabbard is the body, the sword is the soul. The scabbard typifies the material side of life, the sword, the true, the spiritual, the ideal. The man who does not dare follow his own convictions, but who lives in terror of what society will say, falling prostrate before the golden calf of public opinion, is living an empty life of mere show. He is sacrificing his individuality, his divine right to live his life in harmony with his own high ideals, to a cowardly, toadying fear of the world. He is not a voice, with the strong note of individual purpose. He is but the thin echo of the voice of thousands. He is not brightening, sharpening, and using the sword of his life in true warfare. He is lazily ornamenting a useless scabbard with the hieroglyphics of his folly. The man who lives beyond his means, who mortgages his future for his present, who is generous before he is just, who is sacrificing everything to keep up with the procession of his superiors, is really losing much of life. He, too, is decorating the scabbard and letting the sword rust in its sheath. Life is not a competition with others. In its truest sense, it is a rivalry with ourselves. We should seek each day to break the record of our yesterday. We should seek each day to live stronger, better, truer lives. Each day to master some weakness of yesterday. Each day to repair past follies. Each day to surpass ourselves. And this is but progress, an individual conscious progress. Progress unending and unlimited is the one great thing that differentiates man from all the other animals. Then we will care not for the petty, useless decorations of society's approval on the scabbard. For us it will be enough to know that the blade of our purpose is kept ever keen and sharp for the defense of right and truth, never to wrong the rights of others, but ever to right the wrongs of ourselves and those around us. Reputation is what the world thinks a man is. Character is what he really is. Anyone can play shuttlecock with a man's reputation. His character is his alone. No one can injure his character but he himself. Character is the sword. Reputation is the scabbard. Many men acquire insomnia in standing guard over their reputation, while their character gives them no concern. Often they make new dents in their character in their attempts to cut a deep, deceptive filigree on the scabbard of their reputation. Reputation is the shell a man discards when he leaves life for immortality. His character he takes with him. The woman who spends thousands in charitable donations and is hard and uncharitable in her judgments, sentimentally sympathetic with human sin and weakness in the abstract, while she arrogates herself to omniscience in her harsh condemnation of individual lapses, is charitable only on the outside. She is letting her tongue undo the good work of her hand. She is too enthusiastic in decorating the scabbard of the publicity to think of the sword of real love of humanity. He who carries avarice to the point of becoming a miser, hoarding gold that is made useless to him because it does not fulfill its one function, circulation, and regarding the necessities of life as luxuries, is one of nature's jests that would be humorous were it not so serious. He is the most difficult animal to classify in the whole natural history of humanity. He has so many of the virtues. He is a striking example of ambition, economy, frugality, persistence, willpower, self-denial, loyalty to purpose, and generosity to his heirs. Those noble qualities he spoils in the application. His specialty is the scabbard of life. He spends his days in making a solid gold scabbard for the tin sword of a wasted existence. The shoddy airs and ostentations, extravagance, and prodigality of some who have suddenly become rich is gold-plating the scabbard without improving the blade. The superficial veneer of refinement really accentuates the native vulgarity. The more you polish woodwork, the more you reveal the grain. Some of the sudden legatees of fortune have the wisdom to acquire the reality of refinement through careful training. This is the true method of putting the sword itself in order instead of begemming the scabbard. The girl who marries merely for money or for a title is a feminine Esau of the beginning of the century. She is selling her birthright for the love of the pottage of an empty name, forfeiting the possibility of a life of love, all that true womanhood should hold most dear, for a mere bag of gold or a crown. She is decorating the scabbard with a crest and heraldic designs, and with ornaments of pure gold set with jewels. She feels that this will be enough for life, and that she does not need love, real love. That has made this world a paradise, despite all the other people present. She does not realize that there is but one real reason, but one justification for marriage, and that is love. All the other motives are not reasons, they are only excuses. The phrase, marrying a man for his money, as the world bluntly puts it, is incorrect. The woman merely marries the money and takes the man as an encumbrance or mortgage on the property. The man who procrastinates, filling his ears with the lovely song of tomorrow, is following the easiest and most restful method of shortening the possibilities of life. Procrastination is stifling action by delay. It is killing decision by inactivity. It is drifting on the river of time instead of rowing bravely toward a desired harbor. It is watching the sands in the hourglass run down before the beginning any new work, then reversing the glass and repeating the observation. The folly of man in thus delaying is apparent. When any second of his life may stop, and the sands of that single hour may run their course, and he will not be there to see. Delay is the narcotic that paralyzes energy. When Alexander was asked how he conquered the world, he said, "By not delaying. Let us not put off till tomorrow the duty of today. That which our mind tells us should be done today, our mind and body should execute. Today is the sword we should hold and use. Tomorrow is but the scabbard, from which each new day is withdrawn." The man who wears an oppressive, pompous air of dignity because he has accomplished some little work of importance, because he is vested with a brief mantle of authority, loses sight of the true perspective of life. He is destitute of humor. He takes himself seriously. It is $1,000 scabbard on a $2 sword. The man who is guilty of envy is the victim of the oldest vice in the history of the world, the meanest and most despicable of human traits. It began in the Garden of Eden, when Satan envied Adam and Eve. It caused the downfall of man and the first murder, Cain's unbrotherly act to Abel. Envy is a paradoxic voice. It cannot suffer bravely the prosperity of another. It has mental dyspepsia because someone else is feasting. It makes its owner's clothes turn into rags at the sight of another's velvet. Envy is the malicious contemplation of the beauty, honors, success, happiness, or triumph of another. It is the mud that inferiority throws at success. Envy is the gangrene of unsatisfied ambition. It eats away purpose and kills energy. It is egotism gone to seed. It always finds the secret of its non-success in something outside of itself. Envy is the scabbard, but emulation is the sword. Emulation regards the success of another as an object lesson. It seeks in the triumph of another the why, the reason, the inspiration of method. It seeks to attain the same heights by path it thus discovers, not to hurl down from his eminence him who points out the way of attainment. Let us keep the sword of emulation ever brightened and sharpened in the battle of honest effort, not idly dulling and rusting in the scabbard of envy. The supreme folly of the world, the saddest depths to which the human mind can sink, is atheism. He surely is to be pitied who permits the illogical philosophy of petty infidels, or his misinterpretations of the revelations of science, to cheat him of his God. He pins his faith to some ingenious sophistry in the reasoning of those whose books he has read to sum up for him the whole problem, and in hopeless egotism shuts his eyes to the million proofs in nature and life, because the full plans of omnipotence are not made clear to him. The technicality of his failure to understand some one point, perhaps it is why sin, sorrow, suffering, and injustice exist in the world. He declares he will not believe. He might as well disbelieve in the sky above him, because he cannot see it all, discredit the air he breathes, because it is invisible, doubt the reality of the ocean, because his feeble vision can take in but a few miles of the great sea, deny even life itself, because he cannot see it, and no anatomist has found the subtle essence to hold it up to view on the end of his scalpel. He dares to disbelieve in God, despite his countless manifestations, because he is not taken into the full confidence of the Creator and permitted to look over and check off the ground plans of the universe. He sheathes the sword of belief in the dingy scabbard of infidelity. He does not see the proof of God in the daily miracle of the rising and setting of the sun, in the seasons, in the birds, in the flowers, in the countless stars, moving in their majestic regularity at the command of eternal law, in the presence of love, justice, truth, in the hearts of men, in that supreme confidence that is inborn in humanity, making even the lowest savage worship the infinite in some form. It is this petty vanity of cheap reasoning that makes man permit the misfit scabbard of infidelity to hide from him the glory of the sword of belief. The philosophy of swords and scabbards is as true of nations as of individuals. When France committed the great crime of the 19th century by condemning Dreyfus to infamy and isolation, deafening her ears to the cries of justice, and seeking to cover her shame with greater shame, she sheathed the sword of a nation's honor in the scabbard of a nation's crime. The breaking of the sword of Dreyfus when he was cruelly degraded before the army typified the degradation of the French nation in breaking the sword of justice and preserving carefully the empty scabbard with its ironic inscription, Vive la justice. The scabbard is ever useless in the hour of emergency. Then it is upon the sword itself that we must rely. Then the worthlessness of show, sham, pretense, gilded weakness is revealed to us. Then the trivialities of life are seen in their true form. The nothingness of everything, but the real, the tried, the true, is made luminant in an instant. Then we know whether our living has been one of the true preparation of keeping the sword clean, pure, sharp, and ready, or one of the mere idle, meaningless, day-by-day markings of a folly on the empty scabbard of a wasted life.